Teachers are great, aren't they? Especially elementary school teachers. They're just so wonderful. They're so giving, loving. They care for your children so much. They would never do anything to, oh, I don't know, teach them anything bad or influence them poorly or teach them like this woman.
I had my first week as a middle school teacher.
How proud you must be.
Here's some highlights. I had a student on the very first day tell me that she liked my flag and told me that she has a very similar one at home, and it made her real happy to have one in her classroom.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
I had another student tell me that I'm already his favorite teacher, but shh, don't tell anybody.
I think that pretty much sums it up. I found it at Spencer Gifts.
And a nice thing for me is I got my Alexa set up finally. Alexa, turn on the lights. Okay.
You're amazing. You figured this all out already.
I hope the rest of y'all that are in school are having just as fabulous of a week as I am.
Sell crazy someplace else. We're all stocked up here.
No, teachers are great. They really care. Just few and far between are going to have any kind of, like grooming tendencies or teaching your children bad things, right? They wouldn't possibly be targeting children to raise, yeah, misery loves company and make, I'm not saying being homosexual is miserable, but
I've been living under a rock for the past few years because there's a thing called a pedophilia pride flag. Now, this flag doesn't come as a surprise to me at all because I halfway expected pedophilia to be legalized many years ago because Democrats would stoop so low to be inclusive to everybody. So this right here is the pedo flag. The technical term of this flag is MAP, which stands for Minor Attracted Persons. Now, the fact that this flag even exists is disgusting in itself, but once I actually look at this flag and look at the colors, it disgusts me even more. So here's a breakdown of what the colors mean on the flag. The top two stripes are blue to represent attraction to young boys. The bottom two stripes are pink to represent attraction to young girls. The inner yellow stripes are to represent childhood and general attraction to minors regardless of their gender. And the middle stripe is white to represent innocence and unwillingness to offend. How disgusting.
not that, this.
Really good at marketing. They don't call it what it actually is, which is lonely, old. The left is really good at marketing. They don't call it what it actually is, which is lonely, old, childless, void of any meaning. They call it empowerment and freedom. But that's why it's so important to teach people how to see through the left's language. And they do this with everything. Gender affirming care. Let's call it what it is. Sex change surgeries and irreversible puberty blockers stunting kids' growth. Banned books. Let's call it what it is. It's porn in schools and pictures of gay sex for middle school children.
This show isn't even really about that. You're thinking I'm going to have a guest on. We're going to talk about teachers and how bad they are and their influence in public education to get your kids out of it. That's not what this is about. That's not why I took this direction to start the show. My guest today is Arthur Schapper. I like Arthur. And he works with massresistance.org. They fight against that kind of that's what they do. And bring attention to it, call attention to it, because my apologies to you if you're offended by this. I'm going to assume you're not this kind of person I'm about to describe, but we are so, for the most part, stupid when it comes to dealing with education of our own children. It's amazing. We've handed our children over to them. We've just said, here you go. I'm paying taxes for this. You got my property taxes. Okay, so bottom line, I'm paying for this education. Go do it. And those are the people that are educating your children, especially during the COVID shutdown. Every time I brought this kind of stuff up, people would say, oh, Charlie, teachers are basically good. There might be some bad ones. No. It's quite the opposite. There might be some good ones. Most of them were fired during the COVID shutdown. they refused to take the shot, they were fired. Fired. Even if they had tenure, even if they'd been in for a long time, the unions turned their backs on them. They're out of the public education system. What good teachers there were, they're freaking gone. And any good ones that might happen to be left that aren't part of that are so scared to death that they're still teaching the curriculum that's being forced fed them from school districts, counties, cities, state. They're being force fed. And they're like, okay, well, I have to teach it. This is the curriculum. I don't believe in it, but they don't take a stand either because they want their jobs. Can I blame them for that? Well, yes. Yeah, I can actually. You better take a stand now for something. You better, because you're going to have to answer for it later. You just are. Whether you believe it or not, you're going to have to answer to the Lord God, the creator of the universe. When he goes, why did you teach children this? Well, the school district said I had to. Governor Newsom, he was going to fire me if I didn't. I'm just saying, do what you want with that information. But the whole reason, again, this is not another show about that. The reason why I brought it up is because the media keeps ignoring what this nutbag who just tried to kill my president does for a living. A frickin' teacher at C2 Education in Torrance. It's K through 12. They cover it all. Kindergarten through senior in high school. They'll supplement your income. Are you paying for that, by the way? I don't know. I'm going to talk to a guy who actually lives in Torrance, where this nutbag is from. Rode a train all across the country. A train. Took a leave of absence from work. Lied to his family and friends and his students. I got this. I got a job interview. I got this. I got that. He lied to a bunch of them. Then he does this little manifesto thing before he did his attempted assassination, running. He shot a Secret Service agent point blank with a shotgun. The agent survived because he's wearing a bulletproof vest, thank God. Flak vest. Thank God. Why is that scumbag still drawing in precious oxygen through lungs that are fully intact and not full of bullet holes? He pulled a gun on a Secret Service agent, shot him. Why didn't all the other agents say, that's it, bam? He's still living, breathing. He's going to become a martyr. He's 31 years old, still lives with his parents, teaching your children. Cole Allen is his name. That's hopefully first time and last time I'll say his name. What a pig. What a swine. Oh, Charlie, that's not very nice. I'm listening to Glenn Beck yesterday, and he's talking about this clown. And he says, yes, he's doing evil things, but he's not evil. We can't call him evil because his intentions were good. What does it take to be called evil by you, Glenn? How about Adolf Hitler? Was he evil? His intentions, he thought he was right with the Lord. He thought he was doing God's work, didn't he? Oh, he's not really evil. Son of a gun. Okay, that's it. Let's get Arthur in the mix. I've had my say. Let's hear what he has to say now on Do Not Talk. Are you ready? Hit it.
Mm-hmm.
Buddy boy.
Hey, how you doing, Charlie? Boy, there is a lot to talk about. And boy, I'd be more than happy to go over at length how, schools have just turned into, pits of depravity, what they're doing to kids, what they do behind parents' backs. And now you've got, Cole Tomas Allen, who was tutoring kids, teaching kids, and right there behind the scenes in his deranged mind, he was plotting to kill as many officials in the Trump administration as possible. This is really creepy, and you bet it was right here in my own backyard here in Torrance, California. I can't tell you how many messages I've been getting since this happened. It's outrageous. I'm,
Hey, Art, you live in Torrance, don't you? You know the guy?
I went to
Oh,
every time
your phone goes crazy.
every time there has been a No Kings protest in front of the Torrance City Hall, I have been there to record all the craziness. I've never seen so much mental illness, derangement, and outright depravity all congregated into one place. It is
It's actually
disturbing,
frightening.
it's sickening, and it's very discouraging to think that there's this kind of humanity that is just bubbling up to the surface. U.S. Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut, he was in LA for some reason. Shouldn't he be in Connecticut? And he was there, and he came down to the No Kings protest. He was there at Torrance City Hall. So I kind of went up, and I was very quiet, and I said, I told the staffer, I'd like to get a photo with Senator Murphy. And then I shouted at him, we were doing a little video. This is Chris Murphy from Connecticut. And I said, God bless Donald Trump. And he didn't like that. He pushed me away really quick.
Yeah, I'll bet he did.
So, there's a little bit of violence right there. There is all of these protests. They have 8647, Trump's a Nazi, take out the dictator. I've seen guillotine pictures. This is not okay. This is vile. This is violent. This is virulent. Nobody should be tolerating this. And now we see how it is waging all kinds of depravity. It is stirring up people to do all kinds of heinous things. I mean, think about, do you remember that movie, The Dead Zone with Christopher Walken? And he got hit by the truck, and he suddenly had those psychic abilities. He could find people. He could foresee the future. And then he shook the hand of Charlie Sheen, and he was going to start World War III with nuclear weapons. So he shot him to stop him. But, it's like, this is the kind of mania, this is the kind of self-righteous, despicable mania that is overwhelming a lot of these leftists. It's like, we've got to stop this guy. He's the next incursion, he's the next incarnation of Hitler, the Antichrist. The president of the Torrance Democratic Club literally has a post in his Instagram account, which he's blocked me, but I have other means of seeing it. And it has, there's Jesus talking to a MAGA, a Trump supporter, and he has the cap in his hand. He said, I warned you about the Antichrist. And what happened? Oh, I fell for it. This is not okay. This is disturbing. It's abusive. It's disgusting. It's, to depreciate scripture like this and to put all of this venom into going after the president. They've targeted me. I went by the Torrance Democratic Club. They had their little table in front of Torrance City Hall, by the way. So I didn't quite understand that. Isn't that wrong for them to have a partisan, promotion like that? But it's a
Good
public
question.
stand. And, they had a picture of me, and they didn't threaten my life, I guess, but I said to them, wow, I do live in your heads rent free. The funny thing though, is, this year in Torrance, they don't have any, they don't have many Democratic candidates running for office. They have weak Republicans running against strong Republicans, or they have a weak Republican running against an independent. It's interesting. They can't get any decent candidates because they're all crazy. Democrats are connected to a party that thinks that violence and terrorism is acceptable. We keep hearing all about that insurrection nonsense from 2021. That's not an insurrection. That was a bunch of old people who just shouldn't have walked in the building. Let's settle it. A couple people broke some windows. That is wrong. They were probably Antifa or BLM dressed up as MAGA people.
Exactly.
No, I know they were. I know this. The Salt Lake City BLM leader came in with a MAGA hat. Their pictures were all over that. And now we're finding out more from, God bless Tulsi Gabbard. She's awesome. She just declassified a bunch of documents about Obama and the Russiagate stuff. But the real insurrection, you go back to 1983, Democrats, they went into the Capitol and blew it up. Huge damage. For some reason, that's been memory hold, but that happened. And now we see like this repeated incursion of violence. And then we see what happened at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I really love how President Trump handled it. He was very calm, cool, and collected. It's like, how many times has his life been threatened? It's like, it's getting old. Hate to be so, I hate to treat it with so dismissively, but it's like he refuses.
He was trying to protect his wife.
That's right.
That's why it took him a little bit longer to get him off stage. He was
Good
trying
for
to get
him.
to her, and he fell down trying to get to her.
He did? Trump fell down? Okay. Wow. We didn't even
That's
hear
why it
about
took
that.
him a while to get him. Took him long. I mean, Vance was gone.
Vance, they
Melania.
rushed him out. I saw Steve Miller was trying to protect his wife. I saw that too. There is no excuse for this, and we see the left doubling down on this violence. Here's the thing: Republicans need to understand, though. You know, they can point out the moral depravity of the left, but that doesn't stop them from politicking. Notice how it doesn't stop them. I mean, look what happened last year. Democrats swept in Virginia. They swept New Jersey, especially New Virginia, where that creepy Attorney General Jay Jones made death threats and wanted the Speaker of the House to die and his kids to be killed. It's not enough to point out how wicked and violent these people are. You still have to beat them at the ballot box. I have cautious optimism. I think we can. I think we can beat the tide. I think that we can break the precedent. I really do. I think that President Trump is in a much better position to capitalize on exposing their violence. We've got to stop these people. And so let's talk about this guy from Torrance, Cole Allen.
Yeah, let's, because you'll notice the media. I'm sure you've noticed as well how normally if it was even a hint of a suggestion that he was in some way conservative, the media would have been all over, pouring over what he did for a living, producing that out, doxing that out, letting everybody know over and over and over again. But I've only heard a couple of times saying he was a teacher.
Correct.
From Torrance, California. But other than that, everybody's ignoring that. Oh, let's not talk about that because teachers are basically good.
Oh, brother.
Oh, he's a bad one. Oh, well, they're not all like that.
When someone says basically good, I start to cringe right away. I mean, that's what I've heard.
I'm sick of hearing that. I'm sick of it.
No one is good. No, not one. They've all together become unprofitable. None seek after God. There's that moral chaos.
And then there's that
dominates every human being. They need a redeemer. They need a savior. And his name is Jesus. There it is. It's that simple. So don't give me this crap about anybody's basic good. And the fact is, I just watched Nuremberg. I watched that movie last week, and you had the clinician who studied and analyzed all of the high-ranking Nazis, and he walked away with a very disturbing reality that these were basically normal people who emerged in abnormal times, and because of their fallen nature, they took advantage of positions of power and they did evil things. Everybody has this propensity. It was so debilitating for this doctor. He ended up killing himself in the same way that Hermann Goering had killed himself, swallowing cyanide. He avoided the hangman. The doctor died in ignominy. The trauma was so great. And we see that with Cole Allen, this kind of radicalization, this kind of left-wing indoctrination. The teaching profession is saturated with all this woke propaganda for the teachers as well as for the students. And then I want to add on top of that, you've got my Congressman Lion Ted Lieu, who was bloviating all kinds of lies and defamation about my president, about our president. He was calling him, there are serious allegations in the Epstein files that Donald Trump raped children and abused children. This is unacceptable. This is unconscionable, the amount of
They're literally making it up.
They are literally
because all those files have been released. And under 4 years of Biden, they were so afraid of Trump actually being able to come back and win again, which he did, thank God. They would have undisclosed every single thing and anything that they might have had. And they had all of that in possession. They did not, because it's not there. They're literally making crap up now.
They are. And it's deeply irresponsible. I remember there's a guy, he's a Green Party guy. He was a Bernie bro. He hated Hillary. So I kind of exploited that. I wrote an article about him. I won't say his name for now because I don't know if the friendship can be salvaged yet. I'm trying to, the guy said that he loves this country. You find some people who are like Bernie people and they start waking up. They really are principled people, but they think the answer is socialism. They're wrong. They're misguided. That there is a place for that. They're not violent, but they are very wrong, in their views. Some of those Bernie people voted for Trump because they hated Hillary. But this guy, I ran into him last year. He's very hateful of Trump, doesn't like conservative anything, of course. And he was like, he's a friend of mine, but he's like, Trump's a pedophile. And I simply asked him, where's your evidence? You don't get into an argument. I said, where's your evidence? Well, I said, all of the women who were harmed, abused by Epstein have all attested that Trump did nothing wrong.
And none of them were minors.
None of them were minors. Nothing happened. In fact, we just find out recently, a
The
few
ones that
months
have
ago,
accused him.
Trump contacted the Palm Beach, Florida police to go after Epstein. He's the one who called the police on this creep. But
Mhm.
you see, it's like the wokeness, the evil, vile, satanic indoctrination is so deep. People are so desperate for their agenda, for their vision, for their narrative, that truth really doesn't matter. And it's now costing lives. President Trump now, 4 times he's been targeted. We have staff. One of the security guards was wounded. Thank God that he was able to bounce back. I'm totally with you. I'm glad they're bringing back the firing squad. It's time to fire it up. More people.
I can't believe the Secret Service agents didn't unload their clips into the clown when he
Yeah.
pulled a gun and shot one of their own. I'm stunned by that. Why is
I
he
don't
still
know.
breathing? Why is he still stealing our precious oxygen?
You know, maybe a friend of mine, Keith Hardeen, he's very skilled in self-defense training. He has a self-defense ministry, so he's been helping elderly and the young in self-defense tactics, and he also ministers the gospel and shares about our constitutional principles, the laws of nature, and nature's God. And
Like
he was
this
telling
guy.
me, a friend of his was saying that this was a massive security failure. The fact that Allen had gotten as far as he did. Now, I don't know how to assess it. My idea is it's success because he didn't even get into the room where all of the vile people are there. But when you think about it, Secret Service should be so adept, they should be so perceptive that even a guy walking in furtively should get your attention. And I saw a little bit of the video when the guy was rushing in, and the security guard all of a sudden took out his gun. He bolted right past him. So I guess I have to say we got a security problem still. This has not been fixed.
Yeah.
The New York Post, they just
No.
released an editorial saying that we've got serious security problems here. There are still women in the Secret Service. No offense, ladies, but that job's not for you. That it's got to be a man. There are still women who are serving around the president. That's not
That's what happened in
their role.
Pennsylvania. We saw that they're not even tall enough to protect his head because they're
can't
so
do
much
it.
shorter than
And,
he is.
God bless the women. There would be, we wouldn't be here if it weren't for women. This is not misogyny. We thank God for, God's word. The first men come from women, but the first woman came from man. So let's get rid of all the gender fighting. But the fact is, women are different. They're not suited for that kind of work. Why are they still there? That is a failure. That needs to change.
DEI.
President Trump needs to clear that up, because this isn't just about his life. And I agree with him. He wants to make America great again. So he's got to take some steps and start getting rid of these ladies. They got to be doing something else. There shouldn't be women. It should be only men. And they should be high maintenance, protecting this guy like nobody's business. They need to finish that ballroom. God bless John Fetterman. He's like the only sane Democrat left in the U.S. Senate. If there's somebody else, let me know. I'm listening. And he says it's time to get the ballroom finished. We need this done. You know that there's a shift in the air when even Rand Paul, who's been a dutiful opponent of President Trump's tariffs and his other economic policies, he introduced a bill. Let's get the ballroom done. He did it. I think you're going to see, and Democrats
Again, that was one creepy rogue judge who stopped it.
And that's going to be overturned in 5 minutes flat. I am really, these judges have no hope. They can't stop this guy. They have no business trying to stop this guy. Ryan James Gerdesky pointed out a strange irony. Things have flipped. The streets are safe. Our country has never been safer. We've seen crime rates decline. We've seen murder rates decline. The border is secure. The illegals, our population is declining. The migrants are leaving. The illegals, people who are here legally but didn't finish the job, they're going home. We're seeing the pressure off the housing market, the water bill, water table, everything. Prices except for the gas issues, but other prices are going down. It's been pretty good for me, I can tell you that much. And it's the president who's not safe. Everybody else we're safer, but it's the president who's not safe. The
Secret Service has been a dismal failure for quite a while now. And I have come right out and said that this is not the best of the best and the elite, military trained, tactical trained force that it used to be at all. And every time somebody asks President Trump about it, he goes, "No, they're fine. They're fine." He won't even talk about it. But he's kind of like one of these Norman Vincent Peale, power of positive thinking. Everything's good. Everything's fine.
There's a little bit of that, I think.
It's not. Secret Service sucks.
he needs to really step it up. From Abraham Lincoln to the present day, we've seen Secret Service not stepping up enough. There's no excuse for this. They've really got to get it together. And especially now with 3 attempts, and we still don't have all the facts on what happened in Butler. That is a massive failure right there. And we're still not heads have not rolled for what happened. I mean, I don't think that President Trump should be restricted to be in an open space, but come on, you can keep an eye on the rooftops to make sure, does that guy have a gun? Come on, it should have never even gotten to that place. So there's a problem here, no doubt about it. And that you got this, what I do like though, I think Jeanine Pirro, she's kind of hit and miss. I've heard some complaints about her as the U.S. attorney for DC, but she hit the ground running. She went after this creep. He was arraigned as early as Monday. They're going after him for, trying to take the president's life, firearms crimes, etc. They're throwing the book at this creep. This is good. He is still under lock and key. You're not going to have the California let him out on their own recognizance garbage in DC. They're not doing that anymore. That's a good thing. I think though, it's really important, you can't defame. It's not the city of Torrance that, this is not like there's some culture of violence here in this city. In fact, we're one of the safest cities in LA County. We really pride ourselves on our police presence. We didn't have smash and grab problems we have one of the largest malls in the country. It's not the largest. Minnesota took first place a few years ago, but we had it for a long time. Del Amo Fashion Center. We had juveniles that tried to take over a few times. Our police department had a rigorous response, kicked them all out. And we only had one smash and grab in the 4 years since George Gascon. He was the previous DA had gotten elected. We only had one. And we had military. We welcomed Army recruitment offices in the mall. And they were there on site and they took the guy down. And the mayor even gave him an award and said, thank you for protecting our city. You don't have defund the police crap here, so it really goes to show that you never know what evil lurks in the hearts of any man. And I would say, though, Cole Allen, radicalized as a liberal, that manifesto he wrote was so evil. It was all based on the lies.
Very anti-Christian, that's for sure.
This guy says, I'm sorry. This is like delusions of grandeur reaching a zenith point. And we have to start really shaming people when they start shouting Nazi, fascist, whatever. When you look at Hassan Piker, he's like now the communist wunderkind for the left. He's the podcaster who's trying to prop up a communist resurgence. He's the one who has celebrated the assassination of CEOs. These are people who are glorifying violence. They are legitimizing looting. You have major newspapers that say it's okay to loot in the name of social protest. This is evil. I've thought about this. This is from a legal perspective. We've got the Brandenburg test, Brandenburg versus Ohio. This was a case from the early 60s, I believe. You had a KKK, Grand Dragon in Ohio who was like, preaching for we should clear everybody out and go after the black people violence. There was a criminal syndicalism. You have a group of people coming together planning to commit a crime. That's criminal syndicalism, right? So Ohio had a statute to criminalize that. So the case goes all the way up to the Supreme Court, and in their infinite wisdom, they struck down Ohio's law saying you can't arrest somebody unless their speech is immediate and imminent threats. I think we need to revisit that. If somebody's going around saying kill all the black people, no, that's not okay. Or kill all the white people, or it's time to kill the police. It's like, no, you are advocating violence. You cannot do that. Our common law tradition never substantiated that. The framers of our Constitution never intended for the First Amendment to be carte blanche, say whatever you want, threaten people's lives, and nothing can happen to you. That is a lie. And we need to revisit that. It's the same issue with Sullivan versus New York. I have to tie this in because it has to do with left-wing pronouncements of dishonesty threatening conservatives' lives. The Southern Poverty Law Center, they are a hate group like no other. I mean, they're Klan without the hoods. I have been targeted by that hate group. Mass Resistance has been targeted by that hate group. And God bless President Trump and the DOJ. They have finally filed criminal charges against that hate group from Alabama.
This is awesome.
Deceiving the public, false conversion of funds, propping up white supremacists, propping up these Antifa, Nazi hate groups all over the country. They were the ones behind Charlottesville. No surprise there. Brian Kamaker, the president of Mass Resistance, he has exposed them frequently. There is one nettlesome issue over and over. People fail on this. The Southern Poverty Law Center was never a civil rights organization. They never had they were never an institution of any integrity. They were an ambulance chasing, corrupt machine making lawyer outfit. Morris Dees was a failed lawyer. He actually represented the KKK. Then he switched into civil rights litigation for the money. It was never about cleaning up communities. It was never about stopping hate or stopping violence. That is a lie. The KKK was a nothing organization when he started suing them. Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General of Alabama at the time, he did most of the work. He was able to push through integration. He was able to shut down these terrorist groups. It wasn't the Southern Poverty Law Center. They would just jump in after the fact, like ambulance chasers, collect a lot of fees, bankrupt these institutions just for the money. And as the DOJ has just exposed, they were then paying these hate groups to cause more trouble so they could fundraise off of that. This
exactly, and all with a lot of fanfare. Look what we're doing, and the media propping them up, and all that did was prompt donations. It was all about donations. Same with Jesse Jackson with his Rainbow Coalition, showing up at every single anything that smacked of any kind of racial tension. He'd be there with the cameras on him, all just to get more donations, and the donations would pour in because there's a lot of stupid people in our nation.
It is a problem. I've talked to people in my church. There was one guy, he was like, oh, I used to donate to the Southern Poverty Law Center, and I thought they were doing a great work. But then I found, they're all in on the LGBT stuff. They want to be promoting that aggressively. And other parents' rights groups that don't want pornography being pushed on kids in the schools, they would get labeled as hate groups. I mean, this is beyond silly. Moms for Liberty, you had the head of that group. She was on MSNBC having to push back against that label. But we're the Mass Resistance, we get the top notch. We were a hate group before it was cool to be a hate group, if you will. We overcame a lot of that. We have a record of actually forcing newspapers to retract their defamation. We even told NPR in Michigan, we said, this is a hate group. They've targeted Christians, Muslims, Jews, etc. Why are you quoting them? And then they retracted it. They wouldn't call us a hate group anymore. We were able to push back, but it doesn't matter if there's still a hate map and your picture's on it and you're called an extremist and they put you next to a picture of the KKK. It is going to stir up crazies like Cole Allen to start shooting up the place. The Family Research Council, they've talked about this every year, as they should. 2012, a crazed gunman saw the Family Research Council on the Southern Poverty Law Center website listing them as a hate group. So he went in there, shot the gunman, similar to what you saw with Cole Allen and what he tried to do to President Trump and to his cabinet. They are stirred up with crazy hatred, bitterness, and they think, I gotta kill these people. They're hurting everybody. There was a church in El Monte. They had a ministry helping people with same-sex attraction issues or transgender issues, and somebody firebombed that church because of the SPLC. These hate groups, like the SPLC, they target innocent civilians, they target conservatives, and it's not just about defaming them, it's about putting them in danger. That is something that Brian Kamaker and I and the rest of Mass Resistance really want to stress to people. These hate maps, it's about fomenting violence against everyday people. It's about not just intimidating you and silencing you, it's about getting you killed. That is a legitimate accusation, and we should not back away from calling them out on this. I'm so happy when I put a post up in we have local Facebook groups for Torrance, and when I saw what happened, this Cole Allen guy, I went after Indivisibles and I said they should be held accountable for this. The Indivisible groups, they are responsible. They are stirring up hate. They're calling everybody a Nazi who disagrees with them.
He's I guess a member of some club that's been around for a good 200 years here in the U.S. I can't remember the name of it though. It's like something awakes, or are you familiar with it? Have you heard about it?
That I haven't heard of.
He's in this old group like that. I decided to, when this whole Southern Poverty Law Center thing came out, I was talking to a friend of mine about.
Here's the name of the group, the Wide Awakes. the
That's
Wide
it, the
Awake.
Wide Awakes. That's
And,
them.
and they're stealing that name from the anti-slavery movement. That is
Mhm.
so egregious. Fine,
That's
you know,
it.
abolitionists. There were some of them were quite radical to a fault. I mean, John Brown, people gloss that guy. He was a terrorist. Even black people did not like him. This is nobody wants to hear that, but he was like radical to a fault. He killed innocent people. That is a fact. Abraham Lincoln did not like him, and that's why. It's not because he didn't want to end slavery. It's that you don't kill people to do it. You don't violate natural law to restore natural law. You can't do that. And you know, I think Abraham Lincoln is so underappreciated for that. He didn't want a civil war, didn't want 600,000
Yeah.
Americans dead to end an evil institution, but that's what it took, because evil people wanted to keep the evil institution.
The irony of ironies during the whole Black Lives Matter protesting and all that going on, and the riots and the killing.
There you go. How many black
Uh,
people were killed? How many black
was it-
businesses were burned? You see this
Oh
over
yeah. Well,
and
no, the
over.
irony of irony were these white idiots
There you go.
pulling down statues of Abraham Lincoln.
Yep. And I bet Cole Allen would have been one of them.
Just so ironic.
Yep.
Anyway, Southern Poverty Law Center, when all this broke with Cash Patel, may God bless him and keep him and protect him.
He's stepping
That's
up.
great with the
I was
FBI.
worried
He's
about him.
amazing.
It seemed to me like Cash Patel.
I'm
was-
not. I
He
knew it
was
was a
looking
great
for-
choice right out of the gate, man.
Glad to hear it. Just you know, for me, it seemed like he was a headline guy. He was like a media guy, and then they just put him in this office. But he has
Fantastic.
absolutely
That's great.
exceeded expectations. You're right. Yeah.
More attention to it. But anyway, I was talking about YouTube, and I go, you know, which is owned by Google. Never forget that. Never trust them.
Right.
And I was talking about, why my I have so few on YouTube. It's called subscribers. It's only like 300 something. I've been on there from the very beginning. I've had thousands, even tens of thousands of views and different videos that I've done and little shows and so on. And it just never grows. And it doesn't do what naturally it would do when you get success and you have people watching. Naturally it'll grow and people subscribe and they like and so on. Not me. And I know it's shadow banning. I know it's algorithms. I know it's all this kind of stuff that they target people like me and people like Arthur.
And me. Sure. My
They
YouTube
hate
channel.
us. They want to shut us up, shut us down, get rid of us.
Yep.
But this friend of mine said, well, maybe you're on some list somewhere, so they'll never do anything to promote anything you do. Have you checked the Southern Poverty Law Center?
Yep.
And I said, no, I've never even looked that up. So I did a simple search engine thing. And it turns out I am on the list.
Whoa.
And guess who I'm on there with?
Well,
You.
certainly there's me. Oh man.
Every
I gotta
time
look-
my name
I'm gonna
pops
look
up,
you
it was
up
with
now.
you. And
I gotta
some
look you
show
up.
that we did that got them all worked up. So yeah, I'm on the SPLC list too,
Look at
right
that.
there with you, buddy.
They are so
that's a-
dishonest. It's so
That's a badge of
despicable.
honor. It's a badge of honor.
It is a badge of
So,
honor, though. That is
Cole
true.
Allen, people like Cole Allen are I don't know what the answer is there. If these school districts were actually interested in firing people like that, but they're not. Even if he lost his job for what he did, or never even got to this point to where he had such power and influence over the minds of children,
Right.
would have never allowed that to happen. This would have still, you don't stop this kind of insanity. I don't think that this can be regulated or enforced through law or anything. All they'll do is just go underground because this is demonic. This is satanic.
It is. We have a spiritual problem in the country. I mean, Nayib Bukele in El Salvador, he recognized it was satanic. It was, those MS-13 groups are Satanist groups. They sacrifice to Satan. They would kill people in the name of giving sacrifices to Satan. You have to kill these evil forces at the core. You have to go after them. The criminal syndicalism statute or the precedent for that, it needs to be developed. It needs to be explored. When you have a group of people who are plotting to do evil, there's nothing wrong with putting an end to it. Police officers, they're allowed to require crowds to disperse if they become unruly. That kind of thinking we need to operate in more deeply. I think that's one thing we do. The other thing too, I'm always big on this, is that everybody should have that right to carry a firearm. You make it clear that lots of people are protected. In Washington, D.C., you know, Trump has done everything he can, but there's still the municipal problem where you've got, you know, Muriel Bowser and that extremely liberal city council. They make it very difficult to get a firearm to carry. The police commissioner doesn't comply. We've talked about this last year. I said it's time for just take away home rule from DC and make it a normal city again. Just make sure, let Congress run it, and there's no elected officials. I don't see a problem with that. And so there's other issues they could do with that too. But allowing for that, there is a certainty that if some potential terrorist or gunman wants to start trouble and perpetrate a mass shooting, that there's a greater likelihood that people in that audience or in that group, they carry as well. People will think twice about it. The Wild West was not very wild because everybody had a gun. That kind of right needs to be restored fully. That's a big step we could take. I think also, I don't know, there needs to be like a legal exploitation. When you have people celebrating Luigi Mangione for assassinating a CEO, I got a real problem with that. We have to find a way to, okay, if you want to advocate for that, that's one thing, but you shouldn't be making money off of it or something. I don't know. It's a fine line. It's a tough discussion we have to have. But when we see this we see this acceleration of violence in our society, you know, we just can't sit idly by and say, oh, well, you know, people can say and do whatever they want. No, they can't. It's never been that way. There are proper ways to address these problems, allow people to protect themselves, have enough wisdom. My friend Keith Ardeen would step in and say, allow people to train. We need more people to be trained in self-defense. I see nothing wrong with that. It was that way since the founding. Everybody carried a gun. A police force wasn't present or prominent. It was the expectation of residents to take care of each other, to protect each other. You know, getting back into that kind of comedy might be in a reform to look at.
You know, Jimmy Kimmel is still doing his night show, even with his heinous comments about Charlie Kirk. And
that is wrong.
You know, allegedly and supposedly fired him, but yet he never really went away. And now here he is again, still hosting their late night show, and as unfunny as ever. Made that comment about showing a picture of Melania Trump, saying she's glowing. She's got the glow of an expectant. What did he say?
Widow.
Oh, she's got the glow of an expectant widow. That's
that
right.
Isn't funny. And you know what? That needs to be taken up a notch.
The whole crowd laughed. They roared with laughter. They thought that was hilarious.
You know, vile elites who
there's an audience for that.
A bunch of indivisibles.
So
you know,
even if ABC does get rid of Jimmy Kimmel for this even more egregious comment in a guise of a joke, there's an audience for it. There's people who are wanting that and wanting more of it. This is a higher level, Arthur.
This is a spiritual battle.
This is I remember reading in scripture in the final days, the love of most will grow cold. It doesn't say a few, it doesn't say some, it doesn't even say many. It says most will grow cold. And I used to think, no, it does not here in the United States of America. And there's too many Christians, and that'll never happen. I'm seeing it happen. When I say that'll never happen, of course it's going to happen because it's in scripture. I meant in my lifetime. It'll never happen in my lifetime. I was wrong. It's happening. The love of most is growing cold.
Yes. There's you know, it's just the spirit of lawlessness. It is the spirit of lawlessness that's in the world, and you know it's going to get darker and darker. But you know, the church, the light can grow brighter and brighter to counteract that. And that's another thing too. We can't stop shining our light. We can't stop telling the truth. We should not be afraid to confront this evil and say it's wrong. When it comes to Jimmy Kimmel, one step in the right direction. There was I think Oz Perlman. There was a magician who was supposed to perform at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. He was supposed to be on Jimmy Kimmel's next. He canceled. He says, I don't want to be on that show. That, I think, is the way to go. People with integrity say, I'm not going to be on your show anymore. You wish the death on our president. I cannot be associated with that. And then people start saying to ABC, I'm not going to support your sponsors. If you continue to keep
Are businesses canceling their advertising? Are they boycotting the show by canceling their advertising with Disney? I doubt it.
This is where we have to come in as citizens and say, I'm not going to watch this crap anymore.
And
where
I'm
it
not going to,
starts.
and furthermore, I'm not going to give my business to anybody who advertises on there.
There you go.
You see, the left will organize something like that, and they'll get the information out, and don't go to this business. They advertise with ABC. We don't do that. We don't even know.
We've gotten a little bit better. I mean, when Bud Light decided to, prop up Mr. Mulvaney, they lost a huge amount of market share. I know there was another business. I look at what happened to Cracker Barrel. I think that's what's called, right? That restaurant wanted to have
Good point.
Remake their whole image and go left, and everybody rebelled against it. They had to back away.
But those are two advertisers that you just mentioned,
Those are
not
two
the
businesses.
entity that's running the advertising.
Those are the businesses, and they were
Yeah.
targeted. I think I think there is momentum. I think there's presence. We can start building on that. I really do.
When I worked for ABC and I made that comment about the city council making it illegal for any employer to send their male employee home and tell them to dress like a dude who showed up dressed like a woman, they made that illegal. And I made a comment about just how stupid that was. It wasn't even much of a comment, but I was just like making fun of the San Francisco city council. The boycotts began almost immediately, and it spread like wildfire. They're boycotting both the radio stations, KSFO, the one I was on, and KGO, and our television station, Channel 7.
Wow.
Massive boycott of all advertisers. But wait, there's more. They're telling everybody, the homo mafia is telling everybody, call these advertisers and tell them to fire this guy, Charlie Simons, or you are going to cancel your advertising. And we're not going to show up at your business until you do that. As long as he's working there, as long as you're advertising on there. That's how concerted it was, and very fast, to get everybody rallying together to get rid of me because I dared to speak up and stand out of how audacious and stupid that whole thing was. We don't do that. Our side does not do that.
When was that? When did that happen to you? This is
mid-90s.
Mid-90s.
Bill Clinton was president.
Oh, brother. I mean, 30 years later, I mean, you look at how corporate media has collapsed, and you see how independent media like yours has gotten stronger, bigger, faster, stronger. And so it's easier now for conservatives to mobilize, but they got to do it. They got to be willing to make that extra step and say, I'm not going to watch this show. I'm not going to buy that product. I'm going to tell other people to do the same. It is really vile. I understand that like ABC stock declined after Kimmel's joke, saying that, oh, she looks like a expectant widow. I heard something like that was going on. I know Disney has had to start getting rid of their DEI stuff. The president has been a force for good, and I think he's helped empower more conservatives to speak up, to organize, and to put
right.
back. And that's where we are. That's where what Mass Resistance. We're really big on getting people organized to fight this stuff. That's what we want to do.
I can't even get Christians to think twice about throwing all their support behind Disney and Disneyland and Disney World and Disney movies. I'm like, do you realize who these people are? Do you realize what they do? Do you realize they own ABC, radio and television network? Do you realize they're influencing and grooming your children? And now this stuff started coming out, and it was just, they were getting so blatant with it. And their then CEO saying, oh yeah, I remember off camera, didn't realize Mike was hot, making comments about, I'm going to do everything I can to get more LGBTQ representation in our films.
I remember that.
Animated films targeted towards children. But yet Christians will still line up and pay $1,000 for their family to go to Disneyland for one day and talk about how great it is. We don't take a stand, Arthur.
We
just don't.
And that's
Sean Hannity telling people, I don't boycott. I don't think it's right. We shouldn't do what they do. Really?
That's wrong.
You're not going to vote with your dollar, with your wallet. If nothing else, you're not going to vote with your wallet.
That kind of thinking is so wrong. I remember Brian.
It is.
He was a blogger that contributed frequently to town hall, and I'll never forget an article he wrote 2013, taking the 13 principles, Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals, and said, let's use them against the left. And I started to do that, and it was fantastic. It was a lot of fun. It was effective. He talked about we should do boycotts. He spoke to that very reticence you just mentioned. Oh, conservatives, we don't want to do that. We don't want to mess with the free market. But this is about principles. This is about values. This is about public safety. Even we have a necessity to boycott these vile institutions that promote violence, that promote perversion, that promote degradation. We have to do this. And there needs to be that stepped up effort. If we keep insisting on being polite, if we keep insisting on seeing politics as just a chess game, when it's really, this is turning into a war. We didn't start the fire. We didn't shoot the guns first. They did. We have to be prepared to defend ourselves and, if necessary, fight fire with fire. And I said necessary. I didn't say we should do it as a first recourse. It is a last recourse. President Trump, I think, and the Secret Service, notice they didn't all fire guns at the guy. They neutralized him. He's going to have his day in court. We don't live in a kingdom. We don't live in a dictatorship. He's having a day in court. If this had been a dictatorship, they would have executed the guy the same day. You know, we have our checks and balances. Our institutions are strong. They're stronger because Trump is in office. But boy, people have got to wake up. They've got to be the true wide awakes, you know, that's Cole Allen pretends to be. But this is something people got to wake up and accept it.
Right on, brother. I knew you'd have some good thoughts about all of this. I appreciate your time. Arthur Schapper, you can find him, follow his blog spot. You can see a lot of his writing there. He's a great writer, and a lot of fun to read his stuff. And he can be pretty dang funny too, making a point. So you'll appreciate him. You'll find him at townhall.com and at American Thinker and several other places. But you can see all of his stuff at his blog, which is ashopper1.blogspot.com. That's the letter A, Shopper, C, or SCHAPER, and the number 1.blogspot.com.
Yep.
And of course, massresistance.org. I love what you all are doing there. Massresistance.org, worth your time to do a little investigation of who they are, what they're doing, and support them if you can. Right, buddy?
Thank you so much. It's always good to be here. Thank you, Charlie.
All right, my friend. I'll talk to you soon. I didn't even tell you that I've got this mug that you can have on your very own desk, especially at work, especially if you're a teacher. Come on. Strap on a set. You can do it. Put your back into it. That's a nice big old 15-ounce mug, too. I love big mugs. I cannot lie. The other brothers can't deny. So you can find yourself mugs, hats, shirts, all kinds of stuff there at charliesimons.com. And by buying that merchandise, and I got friends now texting me, people have been on the show, they'll text me a photo of, the mug or a hat or whatever. Hey, Charlie, look what I got. I really appreciate that so much. Thank you, everybody, for buying and supporting. You help the show that way. And you can also go to my website, charliesimons.com, click on that merch store tab, or there's ways that you can just give on there if you want to support the ministry. Another great thing, too, is this little QR code right here will take you to nuevalife.com/charliesimons, nuevalife.com/charliesimons, naturally derived products made in the United States of America. They got a great weight loss thing there now, too. It's a chocolate sauce that makes your pants fall off, as my friend Mike Cook says. And I'll be on the air with him tonight, by the way. We're going to be live at rumble.com/do-not-talk. He and I are doing a live show. We'll definitely be talking about the assassination attempt and a whole lot more. And that starts at 6 o'clock tonight, Pacific time, every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Pacific. What else I want to tell you? Oh, I wanted to ask you to like this show, please. If you can, hit that like button right now. That helps with the whole algorithm thing. And comment below. But it's got to be over 5 words, so 6 words or more. Otherwise, they count it as a bot. That's the kind of crap that's going on right now with conservatives, even in social media. May God bless you and keep you. May God bless America. But most importantly, America, bless God.
Oh, man, I forgot. got my mug. I got my
Wait, what? There it is. You're one of the ones that sent me a photo. That's right. Oh, that's
Man.
cool.
I don't know. Is it possible? Do you have the power, like when you're in your closing epilogue? Are you able to switch back? Are you able to switch back? Okay, I tried
Yeah.
to, but I understand. You're in the middle of a good flow, so
I didn't even look down. If I would have seen you holding the mug up, I would have brought you back in. I forgot you're one of those that did that. Thank you, buddy.
Okay, we got everything's good. I just opened my door. Does this light look good?
Yeah, I like it. I like it better.
Okay, I got to start doing that. Okay, I'll remember.
I
to
like
do
it better.
that.
Better light. Yeah.
All right, good deal. All right, I
Okay,
know
my
you got
man.
15
I'll talk
things
to you
get ready
soon.
for. Take
Okay.
care.
See ya.